A divine warning by the prophet for the nations. The citizens of all free national governments, according to their national constitution, are of one family bearing one free national name. Those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional government are classed as undesirables and are subject to all inferior names and abuses and mistreatments that the citizens care to bestow upon them. And it is a sin for any group of people to violate the national constitutional laws of a free national government and cling to the names and principles that allude to slavery. I, the prophet, was prepared by the great God Allah to warn my people to repent from their sinful ways and go back to that state of mind of their forefathers, divine and national principles, that they will be law abiders and receive their divine right as citizens, according to the free national constitution that was prepared for all free national beings. They are to claim their own free national name and religion. There is but one issue for them to be recognized by the government and of the earth, and it comes only through the connection of the Moorish Divine and National Movement, which is incorporated in this government and recognized by all other citizens of the world. And through it, they and their children can receive their divine rights unmolested by other citizens, that they can cast a free national ballot at the polls and cast a free national ballot under the free national constitution for the government for the state's government and not under a granted privilege, as has been the existing condition for many generations. You who doubt whether I, the prophet, and my principles are right for the redemption of my people, go to those that know law in the city hall and among the officials in your government and ask them under an intelligent tone, and they will be glad to render you a favorable reply, for they are glad to see me bring you out of darkness into light. Money doesn't make the man. It is free national standards and power that make a man and a nation. The wealth of all national governments, gold and silver and commerce, belong to the citizens alone. And without your national citizenship by name and principles, you have no true wealth. And I am hereby calling on all true citizens that stand for a national free government and the enforcement of the Constitution to help me in my great missionary work, because I need support from all true American citizens of the United States of America. Help me to save my people who have fallen from the constitutional laws of government. I am depending on your support to get them back to the constitutional fold again, that they will learn to love instead of hate and will live according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, supporting our free national constitution for the United States of America. I love my people and I desire their unity and mind back to their own national and divine standard, because day by day they have been violating the national and constitutional laws of their government and by claiming names and principles that are unconstitutional. If Italians, Greeks, English, Chinese, Japanese, Turks, and Arabians are forced to proclaim their free national name and religion before the constitutional government of the United States of America, it is no more than right that the law should be enforced upon all other American citizens alike. In all other governments, when a man is born and raised there and asks for his national descent name, and if he fails to give it, he is misused, imprisoned, or exiled. Any group of people that fail to answer up to the constitutional standards of law by name and principles, because to be a citizen of any government, you must claim your national descent name, because they place their trust upon issues and names formed by their forefathers. The word Negro deludes in Latin language to the word nigger, the same as the word colored deludes to anything that is painted, varnished, and dyed. And every nation must bear a national descent name of their forefathers, because by honoring thy fathers and thy mothers, your days will be lengthened upon the earth. These names have never been recognized by any true American citizen of this day. Through your free national name, you are known and recognized by all nations of the earth that are recognized by the said government in which they live. The 14th and 15th Amendment brought the North and South in unit, placing the Southerners, who were at that time without constitutional body of power. And at that time, 1865, the free national constitutional law that was enforced in 1774 declared all men equal and free. And if all men are declared by the free national constitution to be free and equal, since that constitution has never been changed, There is no need for the application of the 14th and 15th Amendment for the salvation of our people and citizens. So there isn't but one supreme issue for my people to use to redeem which was lost, and that is through the above statements. Then the lion and the lamb can lie down together in yonder hills, and neither will be harmed, because love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice will be reigning in this land. In those days, the United States will be one of the greatest civilized and prosperous governments of the world. But if the above principles are not carried out by my citizens and my people in this government, the worst is yet to come, because the great God of the universe is not pleased with the works that are being performed in North America by my people. And this great sin must be removed from the land to save it from enormous earthquakes, diseases, etc. And I, the prophet, do hereby believe that this administration of the government, being more wisely prepared by more genius citizens that believe in their free national constitution and laws, and through the help of such classes of citizens, I, the prophet, truly believe that my people will find the true and divine way of their forefathers and learn to stop serving carnal customs and merely ideas of man that have never done them any good, but have always harmed them. So I, the prophet, am hereby calling aloud with a divine plea to all true American citizens to help me to remove this great sin which has been committed and is being practiced by my people in the United States of America, because they know it is not the true and divine way. And without understanding, they have fallen from the true light into utter darkness of sin. And there is not a nation on earth today that will recognize them socially, religiously, politically, or economically, etc., in their present condition of endeavorment in which they themselves try to force upon a civilized world. They would not refrain from their sinful ways of action, and their deeds have brought Jim Crowism, segregation, and everything that brings harm to human beings on earth. And they fought the Southerner for all these great misuses. But I have traveled in the South and have examined conditions there, and it is the works of my people continuously practicing things that bring dishonor, disgrace, disrespect to any nation that lives the life. And I am hereby calling on all true American citizens for moral support and finance to help me in my great missionary work to bring my people out of darkness into marvelous light. From the prophet, Islam. Divine Constitution of Moorish America. The Grand Sheikh and the Chairman of Moorish America are empowered to make law and enforce laws with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body of Moorish America. The Assistant Grand Sheikh is to assist the Grand Sheikh in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and it is known before the citizens of Moorish America. All meetings are to be opened and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 and love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest, because on Friday, the first man was formed in flesh, and on Friday, the first man departed out of flesh and ascended into his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all citizens of Moorish America. No citizen is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. All citizens must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all citizens must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are part and parcel of the government and must live the life accordingly. No organization of Moorish America is to cause any confusion or overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. With us, all citizens must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folk, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live in the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Jew Ali the Prophet to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites, whom inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. All citizens must promptly attend their meetings and become part and parcel of all uplifting acts of Moorish America. Moorish Americans must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of Moorish America. And then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become part of uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Jew Ali, through the guidance of his father God, Allah, Islam. All right, so got a couple of things queued up. We have a continuation from the book, the African presence in ancient Asia, early ancient Asia. This piece right here, for context purposes, is, when we're dealing with the Hindustani community, or any community on this planet, rather, we want to show them with scholarship how they connect back to the Moorish paradigm. Today, we're dealing with Hindustan. And just references that we can, when we're dealing with people and every day, we might run across somebody at the grocery store or whatever. And might see one of our members in the Fez turban. It's going to be a conversational piece. So we just want to have some stuff downloaded to share with them. And ultimately, they might join the Moorish paradigm and assist, just based on the competence of the historical account. So this is a piece by V.T. Rashakar, Sheikh Anta Diop and the Search for the Cultural Roots of the Dalits. So we're dealing with the Aboriginal people of what they call Hindustan today. There's a lot of connotative words in this book, such as black, etc. But we know we're talking about the Moors of the Mauryan dynasty, etc. All right. So a distinguished black physicist, historian, and linguist, Sheikh Anta Diop was among the first to establish that Egypt was the world's first civilization and that it was black. He showed that humanity originated from Africa and that the first human being, the first person, was black. The blacks migrated from Africa to other parts of the world. And just real quick, I know we talked about this before. When we talk about Africa, go back to the Latin word terra, which just means land. So the whole world is Africa. Humans start establishing civilization on Northwest Africa, which is equivalent to North America. And then we spread the culture east. So keep that in mind. This is all connotative. So just think, all humans came from the Americas, North, Central, and South, and spread the culture east. All right. All right. So the blacks migrated from Africa to other parts of the world. The blacks are also the ancestors of Indian untouchables, the dialects. That is why the blacks, wherever they are, belong to one single family. Hence, the relevance of Diop's work for India's black untouchables. Their African origin and their later founding of the Indus Valley civilization is now widely accepted. Whoever is not familiar with the Indus Valley civilization, just kind of look that up on your own. But it's a very thriving civilization. Diop's discovery therefore established that India's black untouchables, which are African origin, are the ancestors of all humankind. Hence, they should be very proud of their black untouchable origin and their glorious cultural past. The whole world owes its origin to black people, our people. African history lay foundation for world history, and we know Moorish culture is a world culture, etc. Collective historical consciousness is a means of survival. If Indians' black untouchables are today hiding their identity, ashamed to own their origin, and admit that they are untouchables. It is because they are not aware of their glorious past. Same thing with the blacks in America, or anybody identifying as that: black, Negro, color, Latino, Hispanic, Puerto Rican, Indian, Native American. They don't know their Moorish roots. Same play in Hindustan. It's a group of highly melanated people right now. As a matter of fact, highly melanated people make up 80% of Hindustan today. Hindustan, Pakistan, Indonesia. It's just not promoted like that in the mainstream. But they're referred to as untouchables. They're off in the villages, etc. Right. But the same thing over there, they just don't know the culture and they're ashamed because of the caste system of the British. Just want to throw that in there. All right. So collective historical consciousness is a means of survival. If India's black untouchables are today, I read that. Untouchables, it is because they are not aware of their glorious past. Diop says that the blacks can regain their personality, can become proud of their past if they are told who they are, right? That's what the Moorish movement is about. And what they are. That means we have to discover our roots, our goddesses, our religion, our ancestors, our history. So you see like I say, a person from quote unquote India today, put them on. Put them on to this info so we can unite. Sheikh Anta Diop has proven that the core of our problem is cultural rootlessness, not knowing the culture. The most important task facing us, therefore, is to reconstruct the links that tie us to communities. That's what our mission is, to unite humanity, right? So it's codified in these literatures. Brother Salim, peace and love. Humanity was born and developed in Africa, which we just established is ancient America. The first human was black, and black is beautiful. The blacks lost their historical memory because they were fed by false history books. We talk about Hindustan as well as America. Of oppression will soon end with the reconstruction of the world history, taking the aid of the tools provided to us by authorities like Diop, Rancul Rashidi, and Ivan Van Sertima, all world famous black scholars. The black is killing me, but we're all scholars, genius citizens, like the prophet said. So we know how to know where they're coming from here. Black untouchables of India, reclaiming our cultural heritage. The original inhabitants of India were dark-skinned and closely resembled the African in physical feature. They founded the Indus Valley civilization, which according to historians was one of the world's first and most glorious. Aryan tribes invaded India, destroyed the Indus Valley civilization. And just for contact purposes, in books like this, they're gonna bring Aryan just to say like a foreign culture. Most people would think blonde hair, blue eyed people, but in actuality, it's like our people were infighting. But that's a whole nother context. Just know it was a foreign culture put on the original culture for right now. But technically, Aryan, like etymology, go back to the word noble. It's going to take you to the original Iranian people. You're going to see highly melanated Moors as well. But in this context, they're trying to refer to a foreign colonist perspective, trying to uproot the original culture and have them do something else. All right, Aryan tribes invaded India, destroyed the Indus Valley civilization, and employed a cunning, deceptive religious ideology to enslave the indigenous people. Those who fled to India's forests and hills later became called tribals, right? As these native Indians were gradually overcome, captured, and enslaved, they were kept outside the village limits. Untouchability was a force enforced upon them. These people became untouchables. Black untouchables of today's India try to hide their identities. They are ashamed of themselves. They hate themselves. How can people who hate themselves love others? This self-hatred can vanish only when we reveal to our people our own glorious cultural heritage, our own gods, goddesses, religious traditions, and the great achievements of our own heroes and heroines, our own independent and distinct cultural past. The search for our cultural roots must become our topmost priority. So that's equivalent to, like I say, the Moorish paradigm, uniting humanity based on letting our people know their culture. You see, this is a global issue. Of course, we're dealing with our people in America because we happen to be in America, but this is a global issue where our people need to connect back to the culture. As the more we can unite anybody on this planet by just knowing the culture. Native people of India, currently known as untouchables, tribals, and backward castes, that forget caste systems, political statuses, and things like that, were not Hindus. They were animists, nature worshippers. Since India's dialects were once autonomous or aboriginal to that land, tribal groups, each group was known by its own tribal name. The Aryans created castes or political status or a pecking order based on basic skin tone of social status out of these tribal divisions by hierarchy, arranging them in ascending degrees of reverence or respect and descending degrees of contempt. So the Black untouchables have hundreds of tribal names. Aryans base their whole philosophy on color or Varna. The fourfold caste system is based on skin color. The natives are dark-skinned and the Aryans light. So we can say that the untouchables, the tribals, are India's blacks, and that India's black population is much more than the entire population of Europe. So, like I said earlier, in reality, it's highly melanated people. And today, what's called India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Indonesia, 80% is darker than me, but they're not promoting it like that. Most people think it's a whole nother situation. It is also the world's largest black quote unquote population outside of Africa. So let that sink in. The population of India today is about 800 million. This, the natives officially call scheduled castes, scheduled tribals, and Dravidian backward castes form about 70%. The breakup is scheduled caste 20%, scheduled tribes 10%, the backward caste 40%. In addition, India has 15% Muslim. India was the second largest Muslim population in the world, next to Indonesia. 2.5 Christian, 2% Sikh. About 80% of India's Muslims are native converts. And you start seeing the same theme in Europe in the 1400s when people start falling. They start turning conversos based on the oppression. They just kind of went along so their children wouldn't get displaced or killed or whatnot. They just, it's equivalent to what's going on other parts of the world. So we can say that over 85% of India's 800 million people are natives. So like I said earlier, 85% of today, when you go to Hindustan or India, you're going to see people looking like me or darker. That's 80% of the population. But once again, in the commercial news, they're throwing it off like it's something different going on out there. And the Aryan invaders are less than 10%. So the people oppressing them is only 10% of the population. But they got control of the 80% or 90%. The minds of the people, just like out here. The indigenous people in America, by number count, we're the majority of the people. But our people think they're minorities for lack of knowledge, not knowing their culture. So the small few control the many based on information and lack of information, right? Most of the Muslims, Christians, and Sikhs are native converts, which untouchability forced on the native population. Many sought conversion to these more egalitarian, liberating religions to escape from the rigors of the caste system. Like I was saying earlier, They're just trying to escape oppression. So they were like, okay, we're gonna adopt a religion that basically the colonists is enforcing, just so our children are okay, and we'll still practice our indigenous culture in our house, but outside we'll just play along. So that's what was going on. That's where you got the terms converso and these things. The native blacks are not confined to any one particular area. They are spread all over India. Some of the tribals in central India closely resemble the African blacks in their physical features. The black untouchables of Tamil Nadu on the southern end of India, perhaps more than any other group, retain their original physical features, including dark skins, broad noses. Their language, Tamil, the oldest language of India, was once the language of the whole country. The whole of Bangladesh, a Muslim country today, was once a Dalit stronghold, or a Moorish stronghold, highly melanated people stronghold. Pakistan also was a large Dalit population. When you think of Dalit, just think of Moor. That's just a term they're using in this book to identify highly melanated people. Or think of the Moorians. Matter of fact, I think me and Nine was talking with a Hindu brother, Hindustani brother, 2 days ago, and he remembered me from like months ago. I came in with the black fez, and he was like, "Y'all Mauryan, right?" He was like, "Yeah, I remember you." You know, they know who the Mauryan dynasty was, the Moors that had the empire over there. But for context of this book, they're saying Dalit. All right, so this is all for context purposes. Dalit is a new name that has come into prominence during the past 30 years. India's black untouchables and tribals had no common name. They had hundreds of different names, hundreds of tribal languages. The British, who, as we know, formerly ruled India, and that's where you get the term India, it was a British tag, FYI. Just like they Indian tagged our people in America, Indian, same play by the British. For the first time, made a census of all these castes and put them under schedule of castes systems, just like black, Negro, colored in America, your political castes. That is how they came to be known as scheduled castes, the name given them in India's constitution. But this is an English name, which the black untouchables can't understand. So the indigenous Moors in that area, if you start calling them Dalits or black, they're gonna be like, "What's that?" They don't even know that. They don't even know what that is. You know what I'm saying? Uh, so M.K. Gandhi gave them a new name, Harijan, meaning children of the god. But the leaders of the untouchables of Bombay formed the Dalit Panthers, named after the Black Panthers of the United States. That's interesting. That was interesting when I first read that. It was an indigenous group that named themselves the Panthers. They were, rebelling against tyranny, colonization. So you had the Black Panthers in the 60s, and you had some Panthers during the same time in Hindustan. Uh, on a somewhat similar mission. Dalit, a Hebrew word, comes out of the root word dal, meaning crushed, broken. It beautifully conveys our anger. This word, found in many native Indian languages, soon caught on. And after we launched Dalit Voice, our newspaper, it became very popular. Today, even the upper caste oppressors use the word Dalit to mean untouchables. Hinduism, its origin, evolutions, and caste framework. The word Hinduism is not the scientific name of this religion. The real name is Brahmanism. Brahmin. Abraham. I'm just throwing it out there just to invoke thought. So I got to get your mind working a little bit. Or Vedic Dharma. It is Aryan imported stuff to India. From the very beginning, it has had the suppression of the native population and women, even Aryan women, as its primary principles. All right, so now we start seeing different religions that got systematically pushed to water down the culture, disrespect the women, suppress the matriarch, just like in America. whereas the natives respected all humans and assured equal status to women. That's ancient mind frame. In fact, the natives of India were matriarchal. Weren't the Moors matriarchal? This is called cross-referencing, under which the women had a higher status. They had only goddesses. There's a pre-Hinduism. Though castes were already in existence, along with untouchability, it was Manu, circa 100 AD, who codified the laws of caste, invented the different sacrificial rites, and founded the social laws that today constitute the basis of the caste system. That is why Dr. Babashev Ambedkar, our greatest leader since the Buddha, burnt the Manu Smriti, the code of the Hindu lawgiver. Manu gave legal sanction to the already existing religious order based on sanctified racism. He inflicted the worst punishments on the Black untouchables and also women. Even to this day, the upper caste hold Manu's code as the essence of the ideal democratic republic. And we already know what democracy in America destabilize the indigenous culture, create division, anti-republic. So we see it over there as well. And defend it to the core. Anybody protesting Manu's code will be socially ostracized. Both the Indian Penal Code, just like over here, statutes, penal codes, and ordinances, the Penal Code over there, and Criminal Procedure Code have been sectioned to sentence anybody protesting Manu's code. Though the whole of Hindu society is victim of this code of Manu, the Black untouchables and women, including the Brahmin women, are its worst victims. So deroot, destabilize the original culture and structure, right? From this, we can make out that the Hinduism was never the religion of the Blacks or the Moors. Though the upper castes, Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, the three Aryan groups who rule India, are claiming that the scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, and backwards castes are also Hindu, but they're not. Not out of love for our people, but to say that the Hindus form 85% of India, which is a false census, like we just read earlier. That's not the original of our people. And that secure our votes to come to power. The second reason for instilling this Hindu pride, quote unquote, in us is to instigate our people against Muslims, Christians, and Sikhs. So for that whole military tactic to come, a foreigner come in and create schisms, divide and conquer, they'll attack the religion of the people, switch it up. So now they're fighting. Now the original people was finding a reason to fight amongst each other now, based on religion. All of a sudden, to keep our people blind to the fact that outside people are coming in to destabilize us. In America, we see it everywhere now, right? Hindustan. The non-Aryan native people were hostile to the invading Aryans, who were both nomadic and barbarians. How the caste system originated can be traced to the Rig Veda, the first and most famous of the four sacred scriptures of the Aryans. Brahmins were classified as the topmost caste, controlling the brains of the rest. The heredity priesthood of Brahmins was formed. The Brahmins arranged a hierarchy of castes, reserving physical and manual labor for others and a life of pleasure and leisure for themselves. So, I don't want to read, I don't want to get too intricate. I wanted to, my point of bringing this up or reading even this much that I read was so we have a context when we're dealing with our people. Once again, we want to be able to communicate with a sound mind with any nationality of people on this planet and show them how, for one, highly melanated people, it's a different narrative than just shit from Africa, that slave from America. highly melanated people are indigenous to the whole world, and they refer to it as Moors. Background information that would go hand in hand with this, what I'm just reading, would be knowing about the Mauryan dynasty. And then once you cross reference with this book, all that black stuff, that the connotative linguistics that's being used in this book, you can just show people like this is what they're talking about. Right. I'm gonna have a conversation on this. Any thoughts, comments on this before we transition to the next?
Just reminded me of the 14th Amendment and like 1863, 1871, when they were shutting down what the Moors had via the treaties and instituting, corporate statutes and like that. So the area just reminded me of, those modern Europeans that threw the Republic out and instituted that democracy stuff. And a new cancer, just so you're black now. It is two cancer, but that reminded me of that. And blaming mother in the Bible here and over there, in the Hindu books or the Indian books, blaming mother. But I yield.
Wow. Wow. Any other thoughts, comments, statements? All right. I want to continue from where we left off with the court procedure for Moors. So we have the due process continuing from that paradigm. So here's an example. John Smith punches Stephen Smith in the face. So we have an injured party here. 1, effect. Well, the cause was the punch in the face. The effect is the intent to sue. Stephen Johnson put in writing a signed affidavit, a detailed account of what happened on November 29, 2017, example, as well as proof that he in fact was punched in the face by John Smith. Stephen Johnson is also required to properly name John Smith within his affidavit of claim being made against him, as well as properly identifying himself as the injured party or corpus delicti, and submit the signed affidavit to a competent court with prescribed jurisdiction. 2, judicial review and indictment, another element of due process. A written statement of facts affidavit is reviewed by a grand jury. This is the Fifth Amendment we're talking about now. When you read the Fifth Amendment, that's the protocol. Must be indicted by a grand jury before you even talk about, oh, you got charged for something. There's a process that needs to happen. Prerequisites. We're reading the prerequisites. We're reading the intricacies of what due process is. A written statement of facts affidavit is reviewed by a grand jury, administrative clerks, or magistrates to ensure that a legitimate issue is presented before placing the accused, John Smith, on notice of the indictment, presentment of the accusations being made against him. A grand jury is a body of jurists empowered to conduct official meetings and investigate potential criminal conduct. A grand jury is vested with the power of determining whether or not criminal charges should be brought before the court. Upon review, once the grand jury sees the accusations being made in the affidavit, so once again, the injured party, sworn affidavit, then the grand jury determines something happened. Determining that yes, assault is a crime, an indictment or presentment is then sent to the accused, i.e. John Smith, informing him of the nature of the crime and or accusations being made against him, as well as Stephen Johnson's intent to sue, providing John Smith the opportunity to prepare a defense. Like I said earlier, these are elements of the Fifth and Sixth Amendment are the Fifth and Sixth Bill of Rights, and there's 10 Bill of Rights, i.e. 10 amendments. Anything after 10 has not been ratified and is color of law, de facto, not constitution. Back to the divine warning, the 14th and 15th Amendment have nothing to do with our people for our salvation. Another reason why that's thrown in there, because anything after the 10th Amendment is fraud. Arraignment is a formal reading of a criminal charging document in the presence of the defendant to inform the defendant of the charges against them. In response to arraignment, the accused is expected to enter a plea. So I'm going to some law definitions real quick. Let me check the chat, make sure nobody's saying. Okay. Law definition of arraign. In criminal practice, to bring a prisoner to the bar of the court to answer the matter charged upon him in the indictment. The arraignment of a prisoner consists of calling upon him by name and reading to him the indictment and demanding of him whether he be guilty or not guilty and entering his plea, case law, to order or set in order, to conduct in an ordinary manner, to prepare for trial, to arraign in assize was to cause the tenant to be called to make the plaint, and to set the cause in such order as the tenant might be enforced to answer. Preliminary hearing. With some criminal justice systems, a preliminary hearing, preliminary examination, evidentiary hearing, or probable cause hearing is a proceeding after a criminal complaint has been filed by the prosecutor to determine whether there is enough evidence to require a trial. So regardless of what the prosecutor is talking about, it must be an injured party. The injured party came with a sworn affidavit, says you injured them or their property. That affidavit goes to a grand jury. Then an indictment, if the grand jury finds that there's enough evidence to indict, then an indictment is issued out. And then the person that's so-called being accused of doing something receive the indictment. Attached to the indictment is a written affidavit of a human being saying that you or that person injured them. Anything less of that is a violation of due process. Any of these things are missing before you get something in the mail or whatever saying you did something, violation of due process. Preliminary, inductory, initiatory, proceeding, temporary or provisional, as preliminary examination, injunction, articles of peace, etc. Hearing. In law, a hearing is a proceeding before a court or other decision-making body or officer, such as a governmental agency. A hearing is generally distinguished from trial in that it is usually shorter and also less formal. Law definition of hearing. Proceeding of relative formality, general public, with a definite issue of fact or of law to be tried, in which parties proceeded against have the right to be heard, and is much the same as trial and may determine a final order. So back to last week, we might put a writ of dismissal or, writ of quo warranto, writ of discovery, affidavits to invoke these hearings to be like, hold on, based on things that are already decided in law, such as, once again, the most famous one would be Sharon versus Cullen, which states that, which has already been ruled upon that it must be an injured party for them to be a crime. So if there's no injured party, before it ever goes to trial, you put in these writs to pump the brakes based on things that have already been decided, and it might be a hearing to dismiss the case. Some hearings could take place based on a writ being filed, and you just calling the magistrate like, "Look, man, this is what it is," and they might get dismissed before you even go to the court. But most of the time, depending on what they deem the seriousness of the situation, they might bluff you out, keep continuing the case, make you sweat a little bit, and then dismiss the case. Um, most of the time, they don't want a competent more in front of a trial, because you're taking the power out of the magistrate's hand to people that are just hearing sound-minded law, and the more will prevail in these situations. So, let's continue here. Hearsay: evidence not proceeding from personal knowledge of the witness, but from the mere repetition of what he has learned or what he has heard others say, that which does not derive in its value solely from the credit of the witness, but rests mainly on the veracity and competency of other persons. The very nature of the evidence shows its weakness, and it is admitted only in specified cases from necessity. Case law to support that. It is secondhand evidence as distinguished from original evidence. It is the repetition at secondhand of what would be original evidence if given by the person who originally made the statement. Literally, it is what the witness says he heard another person say. Pretty straightforward. Hearsay don't count in court. Doesn't count. Interlocutory, provisional, temporary, not final, something intervening between the start or the commencement and the end of a suit, which decides some point or matter, but is not a final decision of the whole controversy. Case law to support that. We read the term jurist earlier. That a body of jurists would be, it could be people in a body politic. If everybody in the Moorish organization, all members are competent in law, all members will be considered jurists. And in that organization will be called a jural society. Jurist: one who is vested or skilled in law, answering to the Latin jurisprudence, or in English jurisprudence. One who is skilled in the civil law or law of nations. When you look up jurisprudence, that means essentially the law of the land. The term is now usually applied to those who have distinguished themselves by their writings on legal subjects. Indictment: an accusation in writing found and presented by a grand jury. These are law definitions. Legally convoked and sworn to the court in which it is impaneled, charging that a person therein named has done some act or been guilty of some omission, which by law is a public offense punishable on indictment. Kennedy versus State. A presentment differs or is different from an indictment in that it is an accusation made by a grand jury of their own motion, either upon their own observation and knowledge or upon evidence before them, while an indictment is preferred at the suit of the government and is usually framed in the first instance by the prosecuting officer of the government and by him laid before the grand jury to be filed or ignored. An information resembles in its form and substance of the indictment, but is filed at the mere discretion of the proper law officer of the government without the intervention or approval of a grand jury, and an affidavit is a charge made and preferred by an individual. So the affidavit is key. The affidavit of the injured party is key to even pop off the indictment in the first place. Presentment, criminal practice, a written notice taken by a grand jury. So the presentment will be the affidavit of the injured party will be presented to the grand jury. Written notice taken by a grand jury of any offense from their own knowledge or observation, without any bill of indictment laid before them at the suit of the government. Pretty straightforward. Preliminaries, presentment of evidence, due process. The parties are summoned to a preliminary hearing. They are properly identified, and evidence is provided by both plaintiff and accused party, which is called discovery. The plaintiff or injured party properly identifies him or herself and names him or herself on the record. The accused party defendant does the same and names himself for the record. The plaintiff then properly identifies the accused as the defendant on record. I'm trying to think. I think everybody else pretty much know the others, what a plaintiff is and a defendant and all that stuff. So let's kind of go into accused must be properly identified. One, the accused must be properly identified in such a fashion where there is no room for mistaken identity. The individual must be singled out from all others. Otherwise, anyone could be subject to arrest and trial without benefit of wrong party defense. Almost always, the means of identification is a person's proper name. But any means of identification is equally valid if said means differentiates the accused without doubt. There is no constitutionally valid requirement. You must identify yourself. See Fourth Amendment. So in our case, if a straw name is attempted to be put on us after we didn't say who we are, what our nationality is, that's a whole nother issue of denationalization. Yeah, that's the main thing. You're trying to denationalize. Everybody has the right to a nationality. So regardless of what they're talking about, oh, we found this picture from 5 years ago. It says state of California. Whoopty whoop whoop whoop. Whoever that person they're trying to say still has a nationality because you can't be a U.S. citizen. That's a corporate term. That's not a bloodline of people. So back to being properly identified. And once you are properly identified, it opens the door to status, jurisdiction, venue of the court, etc. A whole bag of worms open up. That's why most of the time they try to keep us in that corporate state. But once again, it's back to the competence of the Moor in these venues to set the tone. Set the tone. We're jurists. Statute of offense must be clearly identified. The statute of offense must be identified by its proper or common name. A number is not sufficient. So penal code, whoop-de-whoop-whoop-whoop, that's not being clearly identified. What was the offense? What the injured party say I do to him or her property? Today, a citizen may stand in jeopardy of criminal sanctions for alleged violation of statutes, regulations, or even low-level bureaucratic orders. Example, Colorado National Monument Superintendent's order regarding an unleashed dog or a dog defecating on a trail, etc. If a number were to be deemed sufficient, government could bring new and different charges at any time by alleging a clerical error, right? For any act to be triable as an offense, it must be declared to be a crime. Charges must negate any exception forming part of the statutory definition of an offense by affirmative non-applicability. In other words, any charge must affirmatively negate any exception found in law. Keep it real simple. It must be an injured party. Saying you injured them, punched them, shot them, stabbed them, threw a rock at their car, threw a rock at them. Offense or nature of charges must be intelligently described. The acts of alleged offense must be described in non-prejudicial language and detail so as to enable a person of average intelligence to understand the nature of charge, to enable proper defense or to prepare a defense. The actual act or acts constituting the offense complained of. The charge must not be described by parroting the statute, not by the language of same. The name of the acts of the offense describes a specific offense, whereas the verbiage of a statute describes only the general class of offense. Facts must be stated. Conclusions cannot be considered in the determination of probable cause. Accuser must be properly identified. The accuser must be named. He, she, the accuser may be an officer or a third party, but some positively identifiable person, human being, must accuse. So the person accusing, back to injured party, a human being. Typically, the DA, how it's set up right now for people that don't know law, they think that when the DA says, "Oh, I'm representing the people of the state of California," what they're saying is the state of California got injured, and the state of California appointed the DA to represent the injured party. But the state of California can't talk. Or the county of whatever, or the city of whatever can't talk. These are municipal corporations. And when you look at their charter, they're just that, a municipal corporation. They got board members, just like any other corporation. So how can you injure Walmart? How can you injure something that can't talk? That's back to just knowing law, and you can unravel these things. Things will pop out to you how it's fraudulent. You can't injure the sidewalk. This is the only valid means by which a citizen may begin to face his accuser. Also, the injured party, corpus delicti, must make the accusation. Hearsay evidence, and that the reason we're going over hearsay because that's back to the DA. It's all hearsay. You're alleging I did something, but where's the injured party? Where's the human being saying I did this? The DA, did I injure you, DA? Did I punch you in the face, DA? I just met you. I just met you. The accusation must be made under penalty of perjury. And whoever hasn't looked up the 10 maxims of law, look that up on y'all, own time. And you'll see that for one, back to the sheriff versus color, it must be an injured party. The injured party is gonna, sign a sworn affidavit. It must be rebutted. If it's not, it's a default. And in the element of the affidavit, you must put yourself on like you're gonna put in the conclusion of your affidavit some form or fashion of this is the truth. I swear this is the truth, etc., something along those lines. You know, under penalty of perjury, etc. The accusation must be made under penalty of perjury. If perjury cannot reach the accuser, there is no accusation. Otherwise, anyone may accuse another falsely without risk. Basically that's one of the 10 maxims of the law. Accused must be accorded due process. We just went over due process, right? To comply with the 5 elements above that are for the accusation to be valid, the accused must be afforded due process. We just went over due process. So grand jury, it's only a grand jury after an injured party submits a written affidavit. Grand jury indicts. Grand jury submits to the accuser the indictment and a copy of the written affidavit from the injured party. Anything less of that is a violation of your due process, a violation of your constitutional rights, which are inalienable rights. Inalienable rights means they can't be taken away. Because a municipality creates a penal code and statute that's contrary to the Constitution. And when you look in the Constitution, Article 6 said any law that's contrary to the Constitution is not law. So we must know these things so we can have a measuring stick on what's right and what's wrong. Accuser must have complied with law, procedure, and form in bringing the charge. This includes court-determined probable cause, summons, and notice procedure. If lawful process may be abrogated in placing a citizen in jeopardy, then any means may be utilized to deprive a man of his freedom, and all dissent may be stifled by utilization of defective process. The essential elements of due process are notice and opportunity to defend. Case law to support that, Simon versus Kraft. One is not entitled to protection unless he has a reasonable cause to apprehend danger from a direct answer. The mere assertion of a privilege does not immunize him. The court must determine whether his refusal is justified and may require that he is mistaken in the refusal. Hoffman versus United States. Before we continue here, I see somebody put something in the chat. Let's see. Oh yeah, the brother Dupont Bay got something in the chat dealing with jurisdiction disputes. Looks like it's okay. Yeah. Everybody check that out in the chat. Great diagram. Let's see here. Okay. The court must be one of competent jurisdiction. To have valid process, the tribunal must be a creature of its constitution. So in order for a tribunal is a cute word for saying court, or deciding body. So in accordance with law of its creation, i.e. Article 3 judge. So when they're saying a creature of its constitution, if these magistrates are saying that they got sworn in and took an oath to the Constitution, that means the procedure, their administration must be in harmony with that document. So due process would be one of those things that they would be obliged to uphold, making sure people's due process are not violated. And when they say Article 3 judge, this is referencing Article 3 of the Constitution, which says a couple things. I would advise everybody read it in its entirety, but I'll summarize the bullet points. One of the elements of Article 3 state that any court that's not the Supreme Court must have delegation of authority to exist from Congress, because it's considered an inferior court. Inferior courts are what you call the municipal court, superior court, these state level local courts, distinguished from federal courts. So low level courts, equivalents, if you go to a barbershop, You want to see somebody got hanging up that they went to barber school, that they're competent to do what they're doing. It's the same on the same footing. It needs to be delegation of authority from Congress. So this inferior court can even be operational right now. That's one element of Article 3. The second element of Article 3, any disputes between two separate nations of people, a U.S. citizen and a non-U.S. citizen, the proper venue would be federal court, not state. Just to highlight some bullet points. Lacking any of the 7 elements or portions thereof, unless waived intentionally or unintentionally, all designed to ensure against further prosecution or double jeopardy. So when you hear people say, I plead the fifth, these are elements of the Fifth Amendment. They're basically saying, I plead the Fifth Amendment. And when you read the Fifth Amendment, you'll see you can't incriminate. You have the power, you have the right, not saying, incriminate yourself. You can wait till you have a sound mind or appoint somebody in your drill society that's sound-minded to be the counsel or whatever the case may be, right? Another element is double jeopardy. You can't be tried twice for a crime. These are all elements of the Fifth Amendment. It is the defendant's duty to inform the court of facts alleged for determination of sufficiency to support conviction, should one be obtained. Otherwise, there is no lawful notice, and charge must be dismissed for failure to state an offense. Without lawful notice, there is no personal jurisdiction, and all proceedings prior to filing a proper trial document in compliance with the 7 elements are void. A lawful act is always legal, but many legal acts by government are often unlawful. Most bureaucrats lack elementary knowledge and incentive to comply with the mandates of constitutional due process. They will make mistakes. Numbers beyond count have been convicted without benefit of governmental adherence to these 7 elements. Today, claims are being filed and prosecuted by accepted practice, rather due process of law. All right, so I'm gonna stop right here, open the floor for any questions, comments, statements before we move on here. Any thoughts? Everybody good on this information? Everybody clear what due process is? Is everybody clear what Article 3 and Article 6 of the Constitution is? If not, let's have a conversation so we can be clear.
Clear.
Righty. All right, so I guess let's see. I know 9L is gonna read one section, and then the brother Benjamin Bay. So let's start with Empress 9L. You wanna pop off Uranus and personal empowerment, the lower chakras.
Right. So Uranus and personal empowerment, the lower chakras. This chapter describes ways to open each chakra, move Kundalini energy the most effectively, and make conscious use of great transformative powers of Uranus. If you haven't done so already, be sure to note at this time the timing of your midlife crisis in the table at the end of the book. As we go through all the chakras and their various archetypal contents, you may find you instantly recognize your personal blocks. Possibly you can access your healing mind, since the entrance to potential unbounded states of consciousness is so open at midlife. A number of clients have actually managed to discover their healing mind's unbounded knowledge about their own transformation needs at midlife just by means of contemplating the messages being given out by the various types of chakra blockage. Some of the case history descriptions may seem bizarre, but they illustrate the sometimes dramatic qualities of symptoms. Let's see, can I put this down a little bit? There you go. There are 7 chakras in the body. The heart chakra sits in the middle and acts as a compassionate gateway between the 3 lower and the 3 upper chakras. In the lower chakras, earth, roots, and solar plexus, having and using power are primary issues. In the upper chakras, throat, third eye, and crown, the acquisition of enlightenment, the infusion of light, and our bodies' attunement with spirit are the primary issues. The more the heart chakra opens, the more there is balance between the pole within ourselves to the lower and upper realities.
So real quick before you continue, what I got from the heart part, once the heart chakra opens, back to what the Venus represents in our flag, dealing with love, Venus, love or synonymous, that energy. Once you start coming from that perspective of having love, and I think you brought this up a couple days ago, what comes with having love, how you dealing with people, it's a different reality, outside yourself and within yourself, and it unlocks some things. What's your thoughts on that?
Like it said, it just seems like there's more balance when you open up your heart chakra. You have the balance between the upper and the lower. So that's kind of I can kind of see that, when you, because love is healing, right? Love heals everything. So whatever you're dealing with, I feel like opening up the heart chakras, love is just everything. That's what the chakras deal with. To unblock everything, it starts with, I believe, opening up the heart chakra.
Okay.
Okay. Conceptually, it may work to think of the earth and crown chakras as a point that connects us to the earth and sky, respectively, and the other 5 chakras as inner centers that organize the energy fields of our physical bodies. The root chakra governs sexual response. The solar plexus rules gut, where we process all of our relationships. The heart rules love, where we magnetically draw and hold existence. The throat rules the gateway to communication to all that exists, and the third eye governs the sight of the non-physical. Since opening the lower chakras differs from the opening of the upper chakras, this chapter will focus on the lower chakras, and the next chapter will cover opening the heart and the upper 3 chakras, while showing how these openings purify and further augment more potent and complete opening of the lower chakras. For anyone beginning the time of midlife crisis, I strongly recommend a complete physical. It can be helpful to rule out any acute physical cause for symptoms before it is assumed symptoms are generated by subtle energy. All body processes are accelerated during the opposition of Uranus, and if there is a physical disease, it is likely to progress faster at midlife. So the earlier the diagnosis, the better. However, even if there's a physical cause of symptoms, subtle body work is still useful. For example, those who are struggling with cancer, AIDS, or other life-threatening conditions will find that doing Uranus opposition therapeutic work can complement radical medical programs. On the flip side, knowing that there is no immediate physical cause for a symptom leaves open the consideration of whether Kundalini energy is a real source opening a person to subtle perceptions. In fact, I believe, although I have not yet proved it, that the genetic predisposition to many of the diseases of aging, such as Alzheimer's disease, arthritis, and cancer, is triggered in cells, bones, and muscles that were not regenerated during midlife crisis. Kundalini, can you slow down a little bit, please? Thank you. Kundalini rising rejuvenates the body for the second half of life. And if this energy is blocked and never released, the aging process will not be as healthy or meaningful, and emotional dysfunctions will be more likely to occur. How do you say that word?
Senility.
Senility, from this point of view, is caused by inadequate kundalini or erotic energization of our bodies. From the astrological point of view, the ideal human lifespan would be 84 years, one solar orbit of the planet Uranus, in which the first half of life up to the midpoint would involve mastery of physical or emotional realities, and the second half would consist of the attainment of wisdom while enjoying good health.
So let's marinate on this.
Yeah, I was going to say.
First half of life dealing with emotional and physical mastery, right? And that covers a lot. Mastering impulses, emotional state, sound-minded. That's balance right there. Working on just being balanced. First half of your life. Second
Yeah.
half, a little wisdom. That's interesting, isn't it?
Mhm. I think because when you're dealing with like chakras and energy systems, because you can get blockages, whether through emotional distress or emotional distress can cause a lot of physical ailments, right? So that's why they talk about the Kundalini energy, like moving around, you're moving around that energy to clear those blockages. But I just think in general, too, not only just Kundalini, but just movement in general, like dance and things like that, helps release those blockages, those emotional traumas that you have in your body. So mastering those things, your emotions, so you don't get those physical ailments, right? Those blockages, and then being physical, right, is what's going to help you unblock those things, whether through yoga, right? Yoga deals with the energy systems, right? And I think because I practice yoga and I feel like it helps you, like there's like yin yoga. In yin yoga, you hold the pose for like 3 to 5 minutes. And what you're doing is you're meditating, you're breathing through those movements or those poses, and you're releasing tension. And when you're releasing tension, you're releasing like emotional, like trauma and anything just in your body that's been stored up. And you can feel the release after 3 to 5 minutes, So mastering the emotions, because as we're growing, we don't know how to emotionally regulate. It depends on how we're brought up, the environment around us, right? What have we gone through, right? So learning how to deal with your emotions so you can stay balanced and you don't get sick, right? You don't have those blockages, but you have to be aware of that, right? How to do that.
Right. Yeah. And as you're talking, I'm thinking about I, self, law, and master, what that entails. That acronym of self-mastery, it's very intertwined with what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's like it's doing the shadow work, right? To release, you have to do the shadow work to know yourself, to be able to know how to heal yourself, right? Now that you know yourself, you can heal yourself now. See what kind of things you need to stay balanced and stay in harmony and stay in that love space, right? In the heart chakra.
Right. Okay.
Mhm. Okay. Let's see, I'm right here. For most symptoms during midlife crisis, certain forms of therapy will assist the process. Dr. Sano's Kundalini, Psychosis or Transcendence, contains much good therapeutic advice in this regard. Massage, long walks, hot tubs, yoga, and acupuncture will balance the body. And such forms of therapy even seem to slow Kundalini rising. They balance the flow from left to right in the Ida and Pingala, the channels of subtle energy according to traditional Indian wisdom. Frequently, severe imbalances during midlife crisis are results of energy imbalances from side to side in our bodies. Traditional psychotherapy, such as Jungian analysis, dream therapy, journal exploration, a long walk with your favorite old friends, even past life regression work, will be unusually fruitful at this time of heightened awareness. Every dollar you spend on yourself now is worth 100 because your accelerated energy field focus your healing mind on regeneration of your body, emotions, and mind.
And real quick, the term Ida and Pingala, I'm not sure what background people know about that, but I look at it like left and right brain. It actually comes up the spine as well. I know one vein is fluid in it, and it's the color of like it's white, basically white consistency, and one is like a yellow consistency. It is loosely referred to as milk and honey, and which derives the expression the land of milk and honey as far as the within part of you know within yourself, the land of milk and honey. um I also know based on that is the Skull and Bones schematic for the Skull and Bones organization. When the bones cross like that is representing that expression to it coming up the spine.
Yeah,
um
also, actually, wasn't the thing on the hospital with that spin like this with the thing on the side. That's the Ida and the Pingala as well. When you were saying the left and the right brain, got the spine in the middle, and then the Kundalini coming up would be that yellowish chemical, and then the white one, that come in and lubricate the brain of both hemispheres of the brain. You know,
yep.
you're not here sowing seeds in other places. You know what I mean?
The land of milk and honey.
So that's like the spinal fluid going up.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
That,
we'll get more intricate as far
yeah.
as like exactly those two energies, like they really get intricate at naming them, you know.
Yeah. I think one is blue and one is red. You know what I mean? Type deal.
Yep.
So this is saying that massage, long walks, hot tubs, yoga, acupuncture helps with the flow.
Yes.
Yeah, kind of like what working out does for you. When you
Mhm.
sweat and all that, get rid of those like toxins and all that. You're raising your energy as you're depleting your energy. Kind of like the yoga. It reminded me you were saying like 3 to 5 minutes. That reminded me of isometrics and weightlifting or weight resistance.
Mhm.
That three movements. You got the concentric, the eccentric, and the isometric. So that's the push off and the travel between the push off and the end. So the isometric would be the hold. So in
Mhm.
yoga, it's all isometrics. And if you're holding a weight for 15 seconds after 12 reps, you're gonna be making faces and be get all
Mhm.
that whatever that is out of you, just like in yoga. I'm sure whatever that sound is, which is like, whatever that emotion is, and you kind of feel healed, like, oh, I'm glad that's over. Like, what's the next thing to do? And yoga does that. So in yoga, it's a ton of isometrics, which deal with, I would say, with handling things or being a rock somewhere and being stable. You're holding something. You know what I mean? You're not letting your emotion get the best of you. You're not letting this pose get the best of you. Like internally, this is probably going crazy, but on the outside, I'm gonna hold this pose for 3 to 5 minutes, but I'm sweating, crying, breathing hard, whatever. I'm gonna see to it, and at the end, you'll be healing, and I'm breaking yourself down to build yourself back up. You know what I mean? Well, that's what I get from it, from the item and all that, and hearing you talk about yoga. It's like a walk of life. So all that, anything that squeezes the muscle, it gives off toxins, whatever that may be. Like muscle, like a sponge. You know what I mean? So whatever you put in there, whether what you eat, you expunge that. Whether you walk, dance, yoga, acupuncture. You know what I mean? So I should probably say be full of water. Not in those words, but water assists with that. But I yield for sure.
Mhm. Mm. And I'm wondering, like, those isometric holds, like if it's just while you're holding it, you're building up energy, and that's why you're feeling it, right? So you're building
Yeah,
up energy in the area to be able to push that energy somewhere else, whether healing in the area, because
for
when
sure.
you're dealing with blood circulation, when blood circulates to an area, that's what's going to help heal whatever is injured in your body, right? So now
Yeah.
that you're holding a pose for a long time, you're building up that energy to clear it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I also seen that they keep talking about midlife crisis, and that's like dealing with like the body aging, right?
Yeah.
So It's that when we're growing, we're still developing, our brain's still developing. They say about like 25 or something like that's when, things are a little bit more complete. And I think they keep bringing up midlife crisis because during that time of development, you should be mastering your physical and emotional. So when your brain is completely formed, right? Now you can gain that inner wisdom, right? And you can work on pretty much healing yourself, right? Because now we're in the process of where our bodies are going to be regressing as our bodies
Yeah.
age physically, right?
So,
So now that we know this information, we can apply it so that way we can slow down that regression pretty much.
yeah. It's like preserving, like a plant. It ain't gonna live forever, but
Preserve them.
you're preserving it. With water, light, love,
Hmm.
talking to it if it's in a bad place. You know, all that. Same with the body. When the mind and the body are separate, like you said, you get those thoughts like, oh man, the ticking and all this. You're not preserving it. You're not like,
Hmm.
okay, this isn't forever. That doesn't mean you start panicking or whatever. It's like, oh my, just keep my oil changed, the tires built. You know what I'm saying? Make sure it's
Hmm.
clean and all that. I got a limited time on this, but I'm gonna value this. You know what I'm saying? And all that. So yeah, that goes into the midlife crisis, thinking one way and feeling another. You looking in the mirror, I'm not liking what I see, but it's gonna dwindle. It's like the sand thing, the hourglass.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Don't just sit there and look at it and stretch yourself out while it's doing the
Hmm.
thing,
Hmm.
more, because you never
Yeah.
know when the last sand gonna drop. So make sure you're doing
Hmm.
something that's preserving, so you ain't gotta worry about that. You're doing something that you love, and that clock do what the clock does. Your mind would be in a great mind state. So when you manifest somewhere else, you'll be in possibly a better predicament. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. Self-healing.
yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Being able to heal yourself.
Self law master.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Good convo. All right, I'm going to continue.
Heard.
As for which therapy is most appropriate, an astrological analysis can be a terrific guide, but I have noticed that most people are able to in- intuit what is best for them. This is also a great time to eliminate addictions, since heightened Kundalini energy in our body seems to cause us to feel more acutely than usual. Acutely than usual. The progressive psychological and mental damage that is the result of addictions. Addictions reflect our deep seated death wishes and eros. The primal life force is the antidote to this pull towards death. Thanatos. Tune in to what you need, then go out and get it. Do not ignore any of the signals you are getting. Allow your body to be inundated by the flow of electric magnetic healing power being channeled through each of your chakras. A vital bioelectric body, a body enlivened with Kundalini, is a key to resistance to environmental pollution and stress, and it is a necessary vehicle for a healthy and productive second half of life.
So basically, that last three sentences, no matter what's going on with the smog and the pollution and the low vibrational energy around you, you can circumvent by being balanced within, right? You can circumvent all these things.
Cold line. The water got to get in the boat for it to go down.
You know what I mean? So none
And
of
they
this.
actually say, sorry, go ahead.
No, you got it. You got it.
I was gonna say they actually say that like the leading cause of like a lot of deaths is stress related, is being imbalanced from within, is the emotional trauma, emotional stress, because sometimes they can't even tell where these things are coming from, right? But a lot of the times it's from people not knowing how to deal with the insides of themselves, not having that inner peace, and that's why things physically manifest.
For sure.
That's actually a lot of things that I teach over at Phoenix House. When I do presentations like for kids and adults, yeah, stress kills the body. Stress
Yeah.
causes a lot of physical, because we're a whole being. We can't separate the physical and the non-physical. We're a whole being, right? Our brain actually, that's where a lot of our emotions and our processes and everything's from here, right? So if the brain holds like where the emotions are, right? Then it's like it affects the rest of our body, the nervous system, the spinal cord, everything. And that's how it physically manifests, because hormones get pushed out when you have stress, right? Cortisol, adrenaline, things like that. And cortisol and adrenaline could actually affect your cells over time if if you're constantly in stress, let's say for months or maybe a year, whatever you're going through in life, that hormone constantly gets pushed out and is actually going to hurt your cells. But that's why staying balanced, you're not constantly pushing out that hormone to where it's going to affect your physical body.
Hmm.
Right.
What was that?
Yeah.
What is it like when you're in fear or something, or what you need?
Oh,
Paranoia,
so like,
paranoia,
Uh,
schizophrenic.
yeah, you're right. No, I'm thinking of something that regulates high blood pressure and low blood pressure. Your body secretes something to regulate that. I forgot the name of it.
Hmm.
Insulin.
Yes, sir.
Insulin. There you go.
mhm.
Yeah, your body naturally produces insulin, but if you're always depressed, down, sad, your body's gonna keep producing that insulin excessively to the point where you ruin that function in your body. So now
Like
you're
a
yeah,
like a burnt fuse in the body.
yeah,
You
yeah,
remind me of that chapter in the Circle Seven when the prophet's like the pig doesn't know when it's gonna go be slaughtered. It's not thinking about I'm gonna be bacon and all that. But a human's like, oh man, what if this and what if that? Like she was saying, I'll start with the mind, the brain. You know what I'm saying? So once we start thinking this, then these crazy stories start to you see in your head, and you can be in one place, your mind is like way over here. You know what I'm saying? And your probably your heart's just like, and you're just like, yeah, oh yeah, but that's saying, it's over with. But
and like
Earth is a great place to do that.
and like Mataza Maji put in the chat, the head and the mind must be balanced.
Yeah.
Proper decision making. Um, and that's like back to the prophet in divine warning when he says the lion and the lamb. Once again, that's what he's referring to.
The head and the heart.
The head and the heart, right? Lion and the lamb.
Aries and Leo.
Aries and Leo must be balanced.
Mhm.
So
For sure. Kill the head, the body will definitely fall every time.
yep. Or you got it. Earth chakra. I got to use the restroom right quick. You got it.
Okay. You want to wait for you?
No, go ahead. I can still hear you.
Are you still here? Okay.
Heart. Balance the heart and the mind.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, the spell thing be like telling me something. It did that.
It's all right.
Okay, I'm gonna continue at Earth Chakra. Earth Chakra is my own name for the lowest chakra, energy center that is located below the root chakra sexual center. Mary Scott places Earth resonation in the root chakra, but I find these two energy forms to be radically different. She notes, the fact that the root chakra is associated with the earth is less well known than that it is the resting place of the coiled kundalini. I suspect that the energy center of the earth chakra is located below our feet instead of the base of the spine, which is the traditional location. Okay, that's what I was wondering. I've always heard of like the root chakra, like being at the seats, kind of like by like the womb area, right? But then I've also heard the root chakra like being at the feet.
I would have said the root would be like behind the belly button area.
Behind the belly button.
A solar plexus.
Let's get a visual so we can see what's going on here. This is the root right here.
Mm-hmm. You know what that reminds me of? Kind of like when I was talking about sacred women last week, how they say like for women, the womb area, right? It's the creation, that's the sexual center, that's where life comes out of, that's where a lot of the emotions are, but the root is connected to the earth, which is why the woman is very connected to nature, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the womb.
Okay.
And then they'll tell you too, like with the LBGT thing, they'll tell you like their flag is flipped. They put
Yeah, I've heard that before.
red at the top, meaning like the root chakra over the crown.
Okay, yeah.
So they're choosing that before the sense of it all, of what they're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of that because dealing with like same sex like relationships, right? It's a
Yeah.
lot of like physical, right? It's the physical parts. It's the physical that is focused on, and that's why that's like switched because
Yeah.
that's the first, right?
Yes, that's their flag would be flipped. So, that's what they're representing when they're have that flag up, with the red on the top. The rainbow.
Mm-hmm. I have heard of that before. All right,
Yeah.
I'm gonna continue. Okay. I suspect that the energy center of the earth chakra is located below our feet instead of the base of the spine, which is the traditional location, that it resonates with the hertz frequency of the earth, 7.5 hertz. Other healers with whom I've discussed this issue also report that they sense this chakra is about 18 inches below the feet. So I guess like when people are grounding, right? When they have their feet in the grass like that. We saw that the other day. Someone went outside and they were just had their sandals off and they're just standing in the grass talking on the phone or doing whatever. But he was grounding. So I can see like where they would other healers and things like that may think that, it's below the feet because you can get that energy from the earth.
The sole of your foot. The sole.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You put it on the earth, and it detoxes your body back into the earth without your shoes, when you put your feet barefoot flat on the earth,
Mm-hmm.
or in the dirt, or in the
Yeah. It's interesting. Okay. The earth chakra exalts the body, and I think our awareness of this chakra has been dormant, except in pagan or indigenous cultures, for 2,000 years because Christianity has tended to emphasize spiritual ascension while being negative about earthiness. Actually, this tendency began much earlier when the patriarchy took control of the culture thousands of years before Christianity and denigrated female earth religions. The malfunction of the earth chakra in modern times is specifically caused by our alienation from the pulse of the earth. This is a result of ecological desecration and the confusion of so many people who are not effectively grounded at birth. I sense that the dormancy of this chakra is deeply related to the early mythology of Uranus being castrated by Saturn, then Saturn banishing the Cyclopes to the center of the earth and taking control of the earth. For those who would say that these ancient myths do not influence us, Jungians, analysts, and past life regression therapists insist that the deep mind consistently reports such contents when probed. We are profoundly cut off from our erotic nature whenever there's too much control, Saturn. We cannot then resonate with the pulse of the earth. It is as if we have been castrated, and the existence of female circumcision shows that this is not just a male issue. This chakra is the energy center that holds us in our bodies, and when it is blocked, we are not grounded. To be truly grounded, the earth chakra must open fully at birth. It is the basis of incarnation on earth. Our first connection must be to the earth, our mother, and in mythology, the earth bore Uranus. When this occurs, the infant does not separate from its environment and become fearful or sad. The child has courage and becomes comfortable in its world by means of creative exploration. He or she does not become emotionally alienated and knows how to put up boundaries against negativity when it inevitably appears. This is a child who knows how to get what it needs by being able to ask the right questions and who demands adequate respect, affection, and opportunity to grow. Often in our modern world, however, birth is in sterile hospitals and the baby is separated from its mother almost immediately. The tendency to die and return to the source is intense at birth, as the child has just left the multidimensional spirit realm, and this pull needs to be counteracted by sucking on the Mother Earth, that is, by breastfeeding. As the Earth bore Uranus, every mother bears the divine child. Instead, a hard plastic man-made nipple is thrust in the tiny mouth seeking primal connection, and the eyes of the infant seeking to identify its new location in this third dimensional or solid place are not met with eyes that understand. As a result of this shock at birth, the connection of the multidimensional spirit realm, the crown, and the third eye chakras stay open to help infant locate itself, or else it will die. What this means is that the baby is not really in its body for a while, is not really interested in being in the solid dimension in a cold hospital where there are not healing hands and reassuring eyes. It begins life with a sense of alienation to the earth plane. Then, during early childhood, this feeling of separation is compounded by a culture that really encourages attunement to spirit. As a result, the child learns to shut down. It is this profound alienation and ungroundedness that I think may one day be determined to be the cause of schizophrenia, psychosis, and acute manic depression. Midlife crisis can surface many symptoms of these horrible disconnective disorders, and this is why earth chakra blockage is so intense.
Yeah.
So it's like being disconnected from the earth, being earth is mother, right? Earth, nature, mother, right? Being disconnected from mother. There's no emotional regulation because
Looks like we just got disconnected from other.
Yeah, right. You just got disconnected. Yeah, it's crazy. But you were mentioning Benjamin Bay about the schizophrenic
Oh
aspect.
yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I was like, wow. You talked about that earlier.
Yeah, which is wild.
Yeah,
There's like a whole attack on mother at this point. So the being ruthless is being like motherless. Now I think about it, like completely no knowledge, or I don't say knowledge, but true knowledge of mother, and not in the physical way. More in the spiritual, and then the physical way to appreciate. So as
right.
young men, we grow up, we're not like looking at mothers as we did. Like she was reading. We get disconnected from that, put in a room, and shut down all the natural things, and start looking at our mothers and sisters and things like that naturally. Well, not sisters, not like that, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
those are connected. It's a cold book.
yeah, man. I think let me see. Do you want to finish off this page anyway? Cause I want to kind of tag team it anyway. So
Yeah. This may explain why those blocked earth chakras are often exceedingly spiritual. Spirit has opened upper chakras at birth to protect the baby's connection to its soul in the spirit realm and to keep the baby alive. In the third dimension, in the midst of the harsh hospital environment, this method of staying in the body ensures time for the soul to gather its lessons in the physical body, which is the reason for incarnation. Indeed, in indigenous cultures, children with powerful connection to source are identified and trained, for they are the future seers and shamans of the tribe. The elders know that the lower chakras in these children must be open as well in order for them to have power, and that high chakra skills such as healing, having the sight, and seeing visions are difficult to recover during adulthood if the power centers are their physical bodies. If the power centers of their physical bodies have atrophied in childhood due to the denial and lack of encouragement and enlightened birthing. It reminded me of right now, the seers come out of Sunday school. You know what I mean? So if it was like more as children here, they would be learning these things of their soul. So when they get of age, they can, set the stage. A blocked earth chakra may indicate a childhood of little parental love because of many parents in the 20th century have been afraid of such children. This lack of primary bonding creates children who cannot picture even being a useful part of the planetary experience. As a child, for instance, did you have extraordinary visions of spiritual light? Did you have difficulty expressing what you saw and knew? Did you exhibit extraordinary healing and perceptual powers as a child? And were people around you afraid of this? At worst, such unusual qualities may have caused you to be violently suppressed, making it impossible for you to establish normal boundaries between yourself and those around you. Boundary difficulties occur when you have opened upper chakras and closed lower ones. You may have forgotten about this because the perceptual skills of the upper chakras atrophy about at age 7. Unseen and not unnamed. Unseen and not named unless you are born in an indigenous culture in which magical skills are developed in children. If you cannot remember much about your childhood before 7 and you are experiencing a chaotic desire to leave the planet at midlife, this description may fit you. One thing is certain, you may carry deep sadness within that is hardened to penetrate. You have not been welcomed here often. Such clients say they feel like they dropped out of the sky and just can't figure out this planet. Can't figure this planet out. Some clients who seem to have this difficulty report obsession with extraterrestrial contact questions. This strongly backs up the esoteric tradition that these individuals actually are from locations beyond Earth. This tendency to be more in the sky than on Earth shows up as fascination with contact. And the best antidote is grounding oneself in ordinary reality. Probably should check there like Neptune or like Jupiter. That kind of deal seems to be illusion or off the planet things in the child's chart. ET contacts are real, as far as I know from my own experience. But people who have such experiences who are also not well grounded can end up being very disturbed. Just like Jupiter, you expand and just be in the clouds for sure. Cloud Heart of the Christos, page 81. Whitley Strieber brilliantly, bravely describes his terror and psychological discrimination from ET contact experience in communion. Then in his subsequent book, subsequent book, The Transformation, he seems to have gone beyond his own great fear of the visitors. As we contemplate the implications of ET interference into our own lives, says Strieber, you must learn to walk with the razor's edge between fear and ecstasy. In other words, to begin to finally seek the full flowering of our humanity. Really facing the visitors, meaning accepting that one may also endure great fear and become free of all fear. Pages 242 and 243. The only opportunity I've had to discuss ET contact questions with people who are grounded has been with Yucatan Mayans such as Hun Bat's men. They are not seriously disturbed by contact with the visitors because they also feel safe on Earth. Paralyzing fear.
Which real quick, I noticed, or even the Yucatan Mayans piece, but before that, it made a statement how most people can't tap into this unless they're from indigenous cultures, and they call that magical. You remember that couple paragraphs? So they call what we're talking about right now, talking about grounding, and all this is magic right here, loosely referred to as magic. You know what I mean?
Because they come from the source. Like if you don't come from the source, you can't really like tap back into it, unconsciously. Yeah. Paralyzing fear is the key emotional symptom of a blocked earth chakra, and fear evolves into unnamed, irrational, and totally unexpected deep inner terror at midlife crisis. People report acute panic, obsession at the end of the world, suicidal thoughts that seem to have no basis, and a distressing loss of feeling for any meaning in their personal lives. Sound familiar? Then some of the following descriptions might also be true for you. You don't know why you are here, and you are not sure actually You do not know why you are here, and you're not sure you actually want to bother with any of it. People talk about how they enjoy life, but there is little enjoyment in their own. You may think, why bother about sex? What is happiness? What could joy or ecstasy be? Why did your soul choose for you to come to this planet? Probably go check your book track.
Right. I think that's a good place to stop right here. That's a pretty good
Yeah. But understanding your cosmological makeup will definitely assist in that. And what people looking at astrology as some woogie boogie stuff, you know what I mean? It's not like how the indigenous Moors, Yucatan, Mayans used it for agriculture and everything else. You know, those imbalances could, assist you. When you're feeling down, like I'm watching just social media in general, and I kind of know what the stars are, and people like, oh, I'm not feeling this, and I'm taking a step back from social media and all that. You know what I mean? But the moon is currently being controlled by Saturn in Aquarius. You know, so that's why your feelings maybe you like blocked. You may feel like, wow, you know what I mean? But it's something that will pass. But if you're not aware where these, planetary fears are, you have to feel like life is beating you up, and that could cause a midlife crisis. Oh man, I just caught a flat tire. Can't find my wallet. Phone's dead. But you're not knowing these are just Saturn restrictions. Like maybe your tire being flat, you don't need to go this place. Probably you don't need to make that phone call. You didn't probably need to spend that money right then, but that just came in the faction of these things. So you're looking at it earthly. That could be your earth chakra just like you're just like, why me? Not looking at it, or only being in your earth chakra and cutting off your high chakra being in the heart and below, instead of looking at things from the heart and above, like you read earlier. You know what I mean? So
that's heavy. That's heavy right there. Anybody else have any thoughts? I see Nine. I guess she's having technical difficulty. But anybody have any thoughts on this segment? Comments, statements?
what's the name of this book though?
Oh, the name of this book. Let's see.
Maybe at the bottom of the page somewhere. Screenshot.
Oh, Liquid Light. Liquid Light.
Art.
All right, let's read a chapter in the Quran and we can close out here. We left off on chapter 3 last week. This is chapter 3, Elihu's lessons, the unity of life. Can everybody see the Quran, or is it still showing the last?
I see the Quran.
Okay. Again, Elihu met his pupils in the sacred grove and said, no man lives unto himself, for every living thing is bound by cords to every other living thing. Blessed are the pure in heart. Wow, that goes hand in hand with what we just read, right? Being pure at heart gives you certain access, tapping in it, right? For they will love and not demand love in return. They will not do to other men what they would not have other men do unto them. There are two selves, the higher self and lower self. The higher self is human spirit, clothed with soul, made in the form of Allah. The lower self, the carnal self, the body of desires, a reflection of higher self, distorted by the murky ethers of flesh. The lower self is an illusion and will pass away. The higher self is Allah in man and will not pass away. The higher self is embodied of truth. The lower self is truth reversed, and so is falsehood manifest. The higher self is justice, mercy, love, and right. The lower self is what the higher self is not. The lower self breeds hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, theft, and everything that harms. The higher self is mother of the virtues, and harmonies of life. The lower self is rich in promises, but poor in blessedness and peace. It offers pleasure, joy, and satisfying gain, but gives unrest, misery, and death. It gives men apples that are lovely to the eye and pleasant to the smell. Their cores are full of bitterness and guile. If you would ask me what to study, I would say yourselves. And when you well have studied them, and they will ask me what to study next, I will reply, yourselves. He who knows well his lower self knows the illusions of the world, knows the things that pass away, and he knows his higher self. And he who knows his higher self knows Allah, knows well the things that cannot pass away. Thrice blessed is the man who has made purity and love his very own. He has been ransomed from the perils of the lower self and is himself his higher self. Men seek salvation from an evil that they deemed a living monster of the nether world, and they have gods that are but demons in disguise, all powerful yet full of jealousy and hate and lust. Who favors must be bought with costly sacrifice of fruits and of the lives of birds and animals and humankind. And yet these gods possess no ears to hear, no eyes to see, no heart to sympathize, no power to save. This evil is a myth. These gods are made of air, clothed of shadows of thought. The only devil from which men must be reduced, the only devil from which man must be redeemed is self, the lower self. If man would find his devil, he must look within. His name is self. If man would find his savior, he must look within. And when the demon self has been dethroned, the savior, love, will be exalted to the throne of power. The David of the light is purity, who slays the strong Goliath of the dark and seats the Savior, love, upon the throne. That's probably one of the heaviest chapters in this divinely prepared Holy Quran to me. Chapter 3 dealing with Elihu's lessons. So we got the David and Goliath story in here, symbolically what it means, you know, what the devil is. It's an internal fight. Any thoughts, comments on this chapter? Statements?
It reminded me of the chakras. It sounded like he was talking about the chakras when he was reading about the heart being in the middle. And he got like the chakras above the heart and chakras are below the heart. So it's like the higher chakras above the heart be the motherly principles, and below the heart, be those of delusion, because those are the sensationals, food, lust, whatever it may be, you know what I'm saying? But
Right.
the above the heart, that's the other cell. So it's like how many cells? There are two cells. So I'll say the heart divides the two cells to keep the balance, you know what I mean, of the higher and the lower cell. So that's what it made me think about the unity of life. And the heart, it would be that unity, like he said, where's the nearest place to find me? The heart. There's the balance, within the higher and the lower self being the heart. So you can probably get it, but that's why I got probably for sure.
Wow. Wow. Any other thoughts, statements, comments before we close out here? Brother Salim, man, how you doing over there, man? You're probably moving around. All right, so let's close out in prayer. We'll adjourn. Oh, real quick before we close out, I sent everybody that's the physical members in Cali the link to order the ticket for next week's event. It's better than just scanning the QR code. I thought about that. If I'm sending the QR code, you can't scan it with your phone. You probably got to use somebody else's phone. So I just sent a whole separate link where you could just do it naturally. Order the ticket. It's pretty straightforward. Please just let me know if you have any issues with that. Also, the brother Kabaka Mbe has a nationality card. You got the floor if you want to kind of talk about that, brother.
Islam. Me and my wife plan on getting the ID machine sometime this week, and we're gonna donate it to the organization.
Sorry.
So yes, so you can make the cards and stuff. You know, our ID cards.
Yeah, the one we had it for about 2 years. It kind of just malfunctioned. So that's a beautiful thing. But yeah, we'll still go over the specs just to make sure it's appropriate for what we're trying to do. But it looks like it pretty much is, and that's beautiful, man. We appreciate you for that, Brother Kabaka.
Yes, and also it come with 10 hard copy, the thick white IDs. It come with 10 of those. Most likely, I'm probably gonna buy some more when I order the machine. I'm probably buy more so you can have more on deck.
I got 50 from the old one, so if they're the same.
Oh, okay. So,
yeah, if
okay,
they're the same dimensions, we should be in the game.
All right, so you good. So my question is, being that we're gonna donate it to the organization, do you want me to send it to you, or how that's gonna work?
Yeah, you just mail it, or you can just order it and have it. I'll give you an address to send it. For the destination.
Okay, well, yeah. Well, send that to my email, and I'll order it. We're gonna order it this week, and and I send it to that address that you drop in my email.
Okay. 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 Yeah, for sure. We'll do that. Any other thoughts, statements, comments before we close out here?
And also, it was a great teaching today. I loved it.
Wow.
Great teaching.
Glad you felt that way, man. I see you got the locks in there. I wish mine can grow I can't grow mine like that for some reason. I don't know, man. Maybe.
That's legit with the locks on the beard.
Yeah, man, that's different right there.
And the gray, salt and pepper. Turn it up.
Hey, man, wasn't there like some characters on the Matrix that was like twins that was like chasing people? Then they had like that little.
Yeah, they had I want to say they had the locks in their head. They was like beige locks, but they were twins though.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's funny. But Islam, I'm glad I'm glad you felt like that, brother. It was fruitful.
Yes, indeed. Islam.
Yeah.
Sure. Definitely that book for sure.
All right, I'll close out in prayer. We can adjourn for the day. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, my salvation by night and by day. Through his holy prophet, Noble Jew Ali. Amen. Let's stop, everybody. Hope everybody have a beautiful rest of their day. And peace and love.
Peace and love.
Peace.
Yes, everybody.